والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين حبيب إله العالمين أبي القاسم المصطفى محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اصبروا وصابروا ورابطوا واتقوا الله لعلكم تفلحون. صدق الله العلي العظيم. Enlighten this majlis and bless this gathering with 3 loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. One of the most important things to talk about is to talk about community and to talk about how we can come together stronger as a community. Yesterday, there's no harm in performing another salawat while everyone said was done. Inshallah, if we can all just recite Du'a al-Faraj while everyone sits down, and we can't start to talk when there's movement like this. Well, Majlis shouldn't have started until everyone had settled down anyway. فدعاء الفرج جميعا إن شاء الله. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. اللهم كن لوليك
أرضك طوعا
وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. So yesterday we spoke about why Allah Azza wa Jal created us, what was the reason for creation. And we separated our talk into first understanding that Allah Azza wa Jal does everything for a reason. And the reason for creation, we said, was ibadah. And we said that ibadah, for it to reach its potential, we have to be of those who are ahsanu amala, of the best deed. And we explained what the best deed means in the Quran. And we also mentioned that from the verse, الذي خلق الموت والحياة ليبلوكم أيكم أحسن عملا. And the bala means that we go through tests and trials. And this is the philosophy of Allah Azza wa Jal, of tests and trials. And this was a sunnah ilahiyya. This is how Allah Azza wa Jal wanted this world to move in. And we answered the question, of course, at the end of Allah, if Allah Azza wa Jal needed to create us. That was all yesterday. Today, however, one of the most important things when it comes to the issues of tests and trials, and one of the best things that helps us as members, is the fact that we belong to a community. And it is one of the most vital issues that we are in aid and we are in help to one another. And this does not matter, by the way, old or young. We must be a community that is tight-knit in every single aspect that we talk about. When you look at the Holy Quran, you'll find a lot of the Quran talks in the plural tense. And I promise you, the plural tense that Allah Azza wa Jalla is talking about is not because Allah wants the Holy Prophet to talk to a group of people as individuals. No, He wants to talk to a group of people as a group of people. Because sometimes, for example, I would say, "Oh, you who believe, pray." This is I'm talking in the plural tense. But at the same time, I am giving an individual hukm, that it is wajib upon every single one of you to pray. The Quran, yes, many times it talks in this manner. However, most of these verses are talking in the plural sense for the sake of a community. When you come to understand that you are a part of something much bigger, a lot of things get solved in our life. And I think one of the most vital issues to talk about before I move on to our responsibility within our community is to understand who we are to begin with. Who am I? We all must have gone through some sort of identity crisis. The other day, and the reason why I thought it's important to mention this today is because the other day someone came up to me and they said to me, I have an issue. I don't feel at home here, and when I go to Iraq, I don't feel at home either. And this is a genuine issue that people have. You live here, you're an outsider. You live in Iraq, you go to Iraq, they tell you, Adam Bey, guy from the West. And this is an issue. This is an issue. So what is going to solve our identity crisis? What is my identity to begin with? Who am I? Who do I belong to? Where do I belong to? And I'm going to go over this extremely quickly. And I want to just use one shahid, one example from our history that shows us that having multiple identities many times is extremely normal. In fact, many people belong to multiple identities. When you look at Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi afdal salatu wassalam in the city of Sham, and he's trying to introduce himself to the people. He could have just said, I am a person who came from Medina, no? Because he lived in Medina, he was born in Medina, he lived in Medina, and he passed in Medina. His whole life was Medina. What does he say? أنا ابن مكة ومنى أنا ابن زمزم والصفا. I am the son of Mecca, I am the son of Mina, I am the son of Zamzam, I am the son of Safa. Mecca from Medina is two completely different places. Today you might think Mecca and Medina, yeah, you go for ziyarah of the Prophet, then you go for Umrah or Hajj. They're next to each other. Can you just imagine how different Mecca was to Medina with this example? That the Holy Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, when he needed safety for himself, his family and his companions, and they lived in Mecca and their life was in danger, they fled to where? To Medina. So now you imagine how different Medina is to Mecca. In the same manner that many religious families in 1991, when they rose up against the regime of the time, what did they do? They fled from Iran and they came to countries like the UK. What does this mean? It means that there's a distance. It means here there is a sense of safety. So Mecca to Medina was a whole different place. أنا ابن مكة ومنى أنا ابن زمزم والصفا. Meaning there was multiple identities that he was attributing himself to. I am the son of all of these places. My grandfather is the Holy Prophet, my grandfather is Amir al-Mu'mineen, my grandmother is Khadija al-Kubra. Even the qualities of their hijab was an identity for the Imam. The qualities of the hijab of Lady Khadija, the qualities of the hijab of Fatima al-Zahra was a sense of identity for the Imam. أنا ابن نقيات الجيوب أنا ابن عظيمات العيوب أنا ابن خديجة الكبرى أنا ابن فاطمة الزهراء. So even this was a form of identity for him. This is extremely important for us to keep in mind. And therefore, understand that if you are from a Iraqi family, if you are from a Pakistani family, whichever family you belong to, and you live here in Cardiff, for you are a person who is from Cardiff, whose father came from Iraq, and all of these things come and make up your identity. It is not, you do not need to choose between Iraq and between the UK. You are allowed dual nationality when it comes to identity. We're not talking about passports here. You are allowed. Not only are you allowed, this is what makes you you. And if this isn't what makes you you, then who are you? Of course you will be confused. However, these are the outer layers. These are the outer layers. There are inner layers that we need to talk about. We need to have a core identity, and then everything else doesn't matter. Our core identity, and the first step to our core identity is our is the fact that we are slaves of Allah Azza wa Jalla. That is the number one identity. The first part of our core identity. Once we have understood that, everything else makes sense. What do I mean with that? Look at the Holy Quran, and the best examples are in the Holy Quran. When Nabi Allah Isa alayhi wa ala nabina wa alihi afdal salati wa salam, when his mother Maryam brings him, and they see a newborn child, and they ask her, where did he come from? There was revelation that let the infant speak. What did he say? قال, now he is trying to what? To introduce himself. قال إني عبد الله. He's doing what? He's introducing himself. Or he could have said in the Quran many times, إنا جعلنا مريم وابنها آية. Other verses say, إنا جعلنا ابن مريم وأمه آية. Isa, except these names are mentioned. So he could have said, I am the son of Maryam, and would have been finished, correct? قال إني عبد الله. He's introducing himself now. The first thing that was important for him to introduce himself as was that he is a slave of Allah and not a servant of Allah. Many times we make this mistake in translation. Abdullah means slave of Allah, not servant of Allah. Because a servant sometimes gets something out of it. A slave has no understanding of themselves without their master. And we are nothing without our master. Therefore we are slaves of Allah. قال إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب وجعلني نبيا. So he brought me the book means he's a messenger. جعلني نبيا means he's a prophet. Many times when a person wants to introduce themselves, the first thing they introduce themselves with is the highest rank that they have. Or even, for example, a person who has studied in their CV, let's say they've done a bachelor's, a master's, and a PhD. The first thing they will write is the fact that they have a PhD certificate. Then they will put the master's. Then they'll put the bachelor's. The highest rank is always put first. قال إني عبد الله. That was higher than the fact that he's a messenger. That was higher than the fact that he was sent by Allah Azza wa Jalla. That was higher than the fact of his prophethood. قال إني عبد الله. That made his first part of his identity. And even in salah, many times, or not many times, every time that you are performing your tashahud, you say وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وسلم. I bear witness that Muhammad is his slave and his messenger. Meaning even when you introduce the Holy Prophet, you are introducing him as what? A slave of Allah. So understand that firstly we are slaves of Allah. The second part of our core identity is where our faith lies. Because where our faith lies is where we will be called, is how we will be called rather on the Day of Judgment. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. يَوْمَ نَدْعُو كُلُّ أُنَاسٍ بِإِمَامِهِمْ. Who is your Imam? That is what makes your identity. Who is the person who you have taken as a leader? Under what flag are you serving Allah Azza wa Jal at this moment of time? That is the second part of your identity. So understand that this is vital for a person to understand. Understand that this is something where once you have understood this, understand that now you have to build a stronger connection to the Imam. Because it is not enough for a person to come and say, by the way, Amiri Husaynun wa ni'mal Amiri. We like these types of poems, but this is not enough. It's not enough to say, Ashhadu anna Aliyan waliyullah. Why? Because in the grave, the Quran says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي اتَّخَذَ إِلَهُهُ هَوَاهُ. Did you see the one that took their Lord as a desire? I ask you, does anyone stand there and say, Ashhadu that my desire is my Lord? Is this something someone says? No, of course not. So what does it mean when it says, أَرَأَيْتَ الَّذِي اتَّخَذَ إِلَهُهُ هَوَاهُ? It means that through their actions, they allowed their desires to master them. Their master became their desires. And they stopped listening to that which Allah Azza wa Jal gave them as a measure that we were talking about the other day. And likewise with the Imam. I believe in the Imam of a certain Imam. I say that I am a follower of Imam al-Mahdi, Ajalla Ta'ala Farajahu al-Sharif. And the other day I mentioned something in the ladies' discussion circle that I think is extremely important to share with you as well. There was a few questions on hijab, on work, on these types of issues. And then after answering them, I gave a moment of self-reflection. And truly, by the way, when I see this, I remind myself first. Because generally I reflect on this all the time. And I hope that you can too. I think to myself, in a position that I am in, if Imam al-Mahdi was to enter and see me right now, would he be happy? That is one. And number two, would I be happy for him to see me, or would I be embarrassed? If I'd be happy for him to see me and how I am right now, khayrun ala khair. Very good. If I think there's a sense of embarrassment, or if I think that, before he comes in I need to tidy up certain issues, then there's an issue. Then there's an issue. So understand your connection to the Imam, and understand that we need to be in preparation for the Imam. So this is the second. The third part of the core identity is to understand the people who said Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, who said Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the ones who said Ashhadu anna Aliyan waliyullah, and understand that these people who are of the ones who are awaiting the Imam are your community, regardless of their background, regardless of what country they came from. This is what we share. So therefore, the third part of your core identity is the sense of community. And Allah Azza wa Jal talks about the community so many times in the Quran. So many times. We need to build a stronger community that is ready for Sahib al-Zaman. My identity, why is it that sometimes, I'll give you a point, think about this. Why is it that there is a confusion of identity? Because you don't feel like you belong to a community. Why is it that you sometimes say, I'm not British? Why? Because you don't feel like you are in line with the British community. Why is it sometimes when you go to Iraq you feel like a stranger? Because you don't feel like you're in line with the Iraqi community. But do you know why that is? Because you're basing it on language. You're basing it on looks. You're basing it on accents. Base it on slavehood of Allah Azza wa Jal. Base it on your followhood of the Holy Prophet. Base it on the fact that you are waiting for an Imam and you see everything changes. Now I know what my core identity is. Now I know who my community is. And therefore it's important for us to come together as like-minded individuals to move forward, to understand who we are, to build a stronger community. Look at the Holy Quran, look at all of the times it talks about community. I'm going to allow you to have another moment of self-reflection. Many times you recite Surah Al-Fatiha per day, at least 10 times a day, at least. Other than the fact when someone says, recite Surah Al-Fatiha on a sufra or during a majlis or whatever. But we don't think of the words we recite. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawm al-Din. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka. Okay, iyaka plural or single? Plural. Single. لا ليش؟ إياك نعبد. إياك نعبد. Plural. وإياك نستعين. It is you we worship, and it is you we seek aid from. اهدنا الصراط. اهدني لو اهدنا. Why? Plural. Plural. Think as a community. In your prayer, think as a community. Allah Azza wa Jal made it wajib upon you in your prayer. Made it wajib, obligatory upon you in your prayer to make dua for your believing brothers and sisters. Wajib. One of the ideas of the philosophy of Salah, and one of the reasons why Surah Al-Fatiha was placed as an obligation in Salah, this is one of the reasons. To take us away from ananiya, to take us away from individual thoughts, to think of others, to be forced to make dua for others, other than the many narrations that we have, where it says, Al-Jar qabla al-Dar, from Fatima to Zahra alayha afdhalu salati wa salam, as an example. The fact that you always need to think of others first. This is what we are talking about. A sense of community. And even acts that are wajib to do by yourself, the istihbab increases when it is done together as a community. Salah, you pray your 5 prayers, very good. Pray them jama'ah. You have rows of angels from each side until they reconnect. Why is Allah Azza wa Jal putting this type of reward for these things? So that we start thinking as a community. This is why. So we start thinking as a community. Siyam. I ask you a question. When the time of adhan comes, what is awla? What comes first? Eating or prayer? Prayer. In fact, the istihbab is to pray Salatul Maghrib, Salatul Isha, and then eat. Question. If you are invited somewhere, and there is a group of people that want to eat, what comes first? Eating or prayer? Eating with the people. Eating with the people comes first. Think as a community. Think as a community. Allah Azza wa Jal is forcing us to have this mindset. Think as a community. Think of each other. Which is why Allah Azza wa Jal says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu. The verse we started with, yes? Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu. Isbiru wa sabiru wa rabitu wa attaqullah la'allakum tuflihun. Number one, Allah Azza wa Jal is talking to us. We have claimed to have believed in Allah Azza wa Jal. I believe in Allah Azza wa Jal. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu. Yani he's talking to you. Yani to me, mafrud. Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba alayhi afdal salatu wa salam. It is narrated in the narrations that whenever he used to recite a verse that starts with Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, he used to say Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. Do you know why he says Labbaik? Because he's saying, okay, now you're talking to me. You're talking to Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, he says Labbaik Allahumma labbaik. I mean, I'm here to listen. Give me the order that you want to give me. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, isbiru wa sabiru wa rabitu wa attaqullah. Isburu means have patience. And patience is mentioned many times in the Quran. About 70 times patience is mentioned in the Quran. Patience comes in 3 forms. Patience upon obedience, patience upon disobedience, and patience upon calamity. These are the 3 types of patience. And maybe another time we can have a day dedicated to patience. However, it is also the solve of all our issues and the main way we pass our tests. Because we mentioned that verse from Surah Al-Baqarah about trials and tribulations. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. وَلَنَبْلُوَنَّكُمْ بِشَيْءٍ مِنَ الْخَوْفِ وَالْجُوعِ وَنَقْصٍ مِنَ الْأَمْوَالِ وَالْأَنفُسِ وَالثَّمَرَاتِ وَبَشِّرِ الصَّابِرِينَ. So this is the first step of even passing trials and tribulations. فَأَصْبِرُوا. Have patience. Many times it is mentioned in the Quran. And when you come to other issues of patience, I just want to mention this very quick point. Many times we say, okay, we'll have patience, but I'll have the patience for myself. I can't have patience for others. I have lost hope in the community. Don't you hear this many times? I have lost hope in the community. Finish the ayah. Isbiru wa sabiru. Do you know what sabiru means? Sabiru means help each other with patience. Go back to all of our tafasir. Sabiru yani help each other with patience. This is a duty that we have. A duty to come together, to come hand in hand, to help each other, even on matters of what? Patience. Which is why patience itself comes in moments of difficulty. Patience wasn't supposed to be easy. Said Hasanain Jazallah Khair Jazal. He's brought these youth from London. They are here today. They are in a manner where they are helping the center. They were hoovering before the majlis. They were learning the etiquettes of majalis. They stayed after to help. This is something amazing. But it also reminded me of something. Because a few years ago, I was in a certain majlis and we sat on the sofa. And while we were eating, someone turned around to me, one of the uncles. He said to me, Ibrahim, Ashidek, Jazakallah Khair, Jazak, very nice lectures with the Shunuk. This is from your kind thoughts. I'm not deserving of this praise. God, Mas'aku Shallah, what's happening? God, why have you not prepared a trip for our children? To be honest, I would have loved to, but unfortunately I don't have the time for it at the moment. he got angry. Do you know why? Genuinely he got angry. The reason why is that كانوا يعلمهم الصلاة. How are they going to learn salah? This is a duty that we have to begin with in our families. Salah, yes, it's difficult to teach your child salah. That is why وَأْمُرْ أَهْلَكَ بِالصَّلَاةِ وَاصْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا, the Quran says. And order your son in terms of, or your family in terms of prayer, وَاصْطَبِرْ عَلَيْهَا. Istabir is extreme length of patience. And we also need to come together. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. كنتم خير أناس أخرجوا للناس. كنتم خير أمة. Ummah means a group of people that come together for one goal. That's what Ummah means. إنما هذه أمتكم أمة واحدة. What does it mean, Ummah? A group of people that come for one goal. Go back to the tafasir. Allama Tabatabai, for example, in Tafsir al-Mizan, mentions multiple tafasir for what Ummah could mean, and then he chooses this one out of all of them. He says, this is what it means. A group of people that come together for what? One goal. We are a group of people that said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, Ashhadu anna Aliyan Waliullah. We hope to be of the supporters of Imam al-Mahdi, and we pray for heaven. And we pray for safety from hellfire. Isn't this what our goal is? So therefore we are what? One ummah. Therefore we are one ummah. كنتم خير أمة أخرجت للناس تأمرون بالمعروف وتنهون عن المنكر. We need to come together. This person helps this person in patience. That other person comes and helps that other person with patience. This person teaches someone how to do something. This person advises someone to stay away from something else. And this starts from when you are very young. This includes the shabab. You as friends, you need to come together. Teach your friends what to do. Advise your friends. Sometimes we are stuck in a bubble. And you will all realize this, inshallah. Sometimes in your own personal life, you'll be stuck in a bubble, where later you might regret a certain decision you have done or you have made. Your friend who is outside of the bubble sometimes sees something else. Help each other, become stronger. Become stronger. That is why اصبروا وصابروا ورابطوا. رابطوا comes from the word of rabata. Rabata means to what? To tie together. Allah Azza wa Jalla is saying what? Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu. Have patience, help each other with patience, and tie yourself together. Yani hold each other's hands. Come together, don't let go. اصبروا وصابروا ورابطوا واتقوا الله. Piety, we spoke about piety even here. Piety means what? Needs each other's help. We need to come together for piety. This is the idea that we want to put forward. Many times we are put through a difficulty. Many times we are put through a specific case where we do not know what to do. But go look at the examples of the Quran. The Quran gives you an answer to everything. We had a lecture on the Quran, the remedy and the cure, correct? Go back to that lecture and take some from it. Remind yourself on these issues. And I will mention one example on this occasion. Look at the example of Ashab al-Kahf. إِنَّهُمْ فِتْيَةٌ آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ فَزِدْنَاهُمْ هُدًى. They are fitya more the people that came from London. Fitya we're talking about the people from Ashab al-Kahf. Intuhum, inshallah, fitya amanu bi rabbihim. That is, I believe this is why the choice was made for the name as well. Jazakumullah khair jazak. So take example from the people of Kahf. Listen to the example very carefully. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. إِنَّهُمْ فِتْيَةٌ آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ فَزِدْنَاهُمْ هُدًى. The first step was that they had iman. The second step was they realized each other had iman. So they came together. They came together. And Allah Azza wa Jal, as a reward, gave them what? More guidance. The other verses say what? وَرَبَطْنَا عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ. And we tied their hearts together. In terms of what? In terms of iman. Strengthen iman. Now I take you back. يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اصْبِرُوا وَصَابِرُوا وَرَابِطُوا وَاتَّقُوا اللَّهِ. The Quran says what in the examples of Ashab al-Kahf? وَرَبَطْنَا عَلَىٰ قُلُوبِهِمْ. Why? Because إِنَّهُمْ فِتْيَةٌ آمَنُوا بِرَبِّهِمْ فَزِدْنَاهُمْ هُدًى. These are the examples that we find from the Quran. And look as a result of it. Look as a result of this, what happened. As a result, They came together as a community. When there was a lot of oppression, they were fighting against the agents of Iblis alayhi la'inullah. And then as a result, وَإِذَا اعْتَزَلْتُمُوهُمْ وَمَا يَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ فَأْوُوا إِلَى الْكَهْفِ يَنْشُرْ لَكُمْ رَبُّكُمْ مِنْ رَحْمَتِهِ وَيُهَيِّئْ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَمْرِكُمْ مِرْفَقًا. They came together, they isolated themselves, the meaning of the verse, they isolated themselves from oppression, they came together as a community, as a ummah who had one goal. They went into that cave because they knew that they were able to help each other. Allah Azza wa Jal gave them strength. What happened? يُهَيِّئْ لَكُمْ. First of all, يَنْشُرْ لَكُمْ مِنْ رَحْمَتِهِ. He spread His mercy to them. So the mercy of Allah reached them as a result of it. وَيُهَيِّئْ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَمْرِكُمْ مِرْفَقًا. Meaning everything was prepared for them. Many times we think, and this is a reality, we go into certain jobs, and that specific job that we have will be at the expense of our hijab. Or we go into a certain job, and that job that we have will be at the expense of my religion. Whether it is in terms of my prayer, whether it is in terms of the drinking of alcohol that happens in these places. But Allah Azza wa Jalla says, stay away from these things. And as a result, what? يُهَيِّئْ لَكُمْ مِنْ أَمْرِكُمْ مِرْفَقًا. Everything will be prepared for you. Whatever you need in this specific sense. And therefore, the most important thing for us to remember, to have patience, to help each other with patience, to tie ourselves together as one community with one goal, and then finally to have piety, to fear Allah, and to always be God conscious, inshallah. صلوا على محمد وآل محمد ثلاثا.